It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. So, my name's Jamillah Lodge. Welcome to Mind Your Business. And I'm pleased to have you here, Vanessa James, your owner of the Bottle Studio.
Yeah, I am.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. But before we get started, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name's Vanessa. I started my career off as a barrister, worked and lived in London for over a decade, and sort of recently moved back to Bermuda. And my career has been motherhood and
Okay.
homeschooling and all of that. Um, and I have started recently on my entrepreneurial journey. When I was a barrister, I traveled a lot. I lived
Okay.
in London. It was very easy to be connected to the rest of the world. And it feels a bit serendipitous that my entrepreneurial journey was triggered by a trip abroad.
Okay.
I traveled to Colombia quite recently, and I stayed at an eco lodge.
Okay.
And at that eco lodge, they had made huge impact in their local community. They were rescuing bottles from local hotels, restaurants, clubs, and hiring women in that local community and transforming those bottles that would have otherwise been discarded into beautiful glasswares and homewares.
Okay.
I saw that and I was like, wow, we could do that in Bermuda. As a society that imports much of what we consume, I felt like there was space.
Okay. I love that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you mentioned that you're a mom and you're homeschooling. How many children do you have?
I have two.
You have two?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I can imagine that's a whole job in itself,
It
right?
is, yes.
So after your travels to Colombia, you found this and you said, I think we can do this. What was the whole process for you like when you came back home to Bermuda?
Well, while I was in Colombia, I went solo as in not with my family, with my girlfriends, and I was messaging my husband while I was there, and I was like, oh my God, we could do this. This could work in Bermuda. I got back to Bermuda, and I saw an advertisement for the BEDC Incubator program. The deadline for the application process was like 2 days from the day that I saw it, and I was like, I'm going to apply. I applied, and I think that propelled me from just a concept
Right.
into something that can be real, can be tangible, can be scaled. And I'm excited to see where the journey takes me.
I'm excited for you. I mean, it's wonderful to have an idea about a business that also has a social component, right?
Yes.
They call it social entrepreneurship because there's a whole series of entrepreneurs who start businesses specifically to address a social and societal problem, and ours is waste, right? Very good glass, right? But it goes in the landfill. So for you, what have you learned since being in the incubator that can help you along this journey?
I think one of the key takeaways is not to take silence as a no. I have launched the Bottle Studio, and part of it is getting my business out there, reaching as many sustainability partners and businesses as I can, trying to save their bottles. And some partnerships have been really easy to form. I send an email and immediately I get a yes, when can we start? And other partnerships have taken a little bit of work, and that's not because I've received a no, but it's because I've had a little bit of silence.
Right.
And sometimes silence is just someone's busy. They have an event coming up, and this is not a priority.
Right.
their business is going through changes, and they're managing those things that are separate and distinct from the bottle studio and its mission. And so one of the key takeaways is not to take silence as a no. Maybe a try again, present it in a different way, show up differently. And I think not taking that silence personal.
Right, right. I think those are excellent. That's excellent advice, because I do think that, especially when you're passionate about a project or the business that you're creating, sometimes you're like, why don't they see the importance of this? Like, this is extremely important. Why aren't they getting back to me? But like you said, people have their own issues. They have their own priorities. Exactly. And so just because it's yours doesn't mean it's theirs at the moment.
At the moment.
So I do think that that's great advice. And it also talks about one of the characteristics of an entrepreneur, which is perseverance, right? It's not no, it's just not now.
Exactly.
And I love how you said maybe show up differently. Like, whatever you pitched may not have appealed to the person at the time. So how can you kind of revise that pitch and see what it is that they're interested in? So I think that's excellent. That's excellent advice. So within the incubator program, there are other entrepreneurs as well who have different business ideas. What would you say is the benefit? I'm assuming it's a benefit, but it could be whatever it is. What is it about being in a space with other entrepreneurs along their other journey that either helps or maybe not with you in terms of your business?
That's a good question. And I think it does help.
Okay.
I think it helps for several reasons. Number one, we're not all at the same stage, right? I came into the incubator program very much as a concept. But there are entrepreneurs that are in the program who are beyond the concept stage, and they're thinking about, how can I scale this? How can I step away from this and not be the cogs in the wheel?
Right.
And so it's motivating to see where we could be. The other benefit is seeing ways that you could collaborate with businesses and industries that maybe you hadn't considered. And so we have had like really interesting discussions amongst the group about ways that we could work together in ways that seem genuine, but maybe a little bit out of your general thinking. I've also come away with lots of key learnings from some of the leaders that have been brought in to teach us about like things like AI. I would have never thought that me having the bottle studio and collecting bottles from restaurants, bars, and events, that I would have had a need to utilize AI.
Right.
But I do. Turns out I do. Turns out I do. And like those sort of things have been really insightful. And it's made the learning and the curve really gentle.
Okay. I like that. I mean, it's so interesting because in our last cohort of the incubator, we had someone who was in the services industry. They fixed ACs and all things electrical. And like, when I tell you they were like anti-AI, they were like, but why? What am I going to do? By the end of it, they were like on the AI train. And I think when you think about AI and some of the tools that we have available to us, it shouldn't be a replacement, right?
No.
Your creativity and your designs are your own, but it should be a tool to help efficiency, I think.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And is that how you're using it?
That's how I'm using it. It may help me to come up with marketing concepts, or put a plan together, or give me a schedule that I can stay on top of. And so it just takes one thing off of my plate and makes that process a little more automated.
Yeah. It definitely does. So the glassware. So when you're designing your products, right? We know that you're utilizing bottles from, like you said, restaurants and bars, events, etc. Do you have a specific idea in mind to transform that bottle into something different?
I do. So at the moment, our product is limited to glassware.
Right.
While I learn the trade and learn the process. But I have so many ideas.
Okay.
I have ideas for plant propagation systems, for candles, for serving dishes, for lamps, for storage jars, beautiful wooden lids, and things like that. And so the possibilities for me feel endless.
Right.
I've thought of ways that I could partner with larger events, and even I'm going to put it out there in the universe because maybe me putting it out there will make it
Manifest
happen.
it. That's right.
But Bacardi recently had its Art of the Pour.
Yes.
Really exclusive, high-end event. The best of Bermuda's bartenders. And I noticed that those tasting drinks were served in little paper cups. And I was thinking, how could that experience for the consumer or the customer, the client, be elevated? And you go to bars and you order gin and tonic and you get those little tonic bottles, and the same thing, I could create like little serving or tasting glasses and provide them to events, either on a rental or a sale basis. And that would have a bigger impact than me selling individual glasses to the consumer. And so I have big ideas.
I love it. As you should. You know what I mean? You have to shoot for the stars,
Exactly.
So I love that. In terms of that, so I can see here we have examples of a bottle, and it looks like a wine bottle that has been cut. So some of the things that you're talking about means a complete reconfiguration of the original kind of vessel, if you will.
Yes.
So what does that look like for you in terms of machinery, processing, all of that?
So at the moment, I am hand cutting these using heat.
Wow. Okay.
Hand sanding, hand finishing, and all of that. And one bottle probably takes me, or one glass probably takes me somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes, depending on how clean the cut is.
Yes.
On a large scale, that obviously isn't sustainable.
Right.
And so I am in the process of obtaining machinery that will mean that I have a cleaner and faster cut and more polished and smoother finish on the rim. It will mean that I can cut in different directions and cut different shapes and that sort of thing. And so that is in the pipeline. And I feel like when that machinery happens, then I can take my creation process from 30 to 40 minutes for one item to 3 to 4 minutes.
Yes.
And that changes the game.
It changes it all completely. Yes. You're like, what you need? Okay, got you. Bang, 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 bang them out, you know?
Exactly.
But that's exciting. It's all a part of the learning process. Who knew you were an artist, right? When you were getting your barrister's certificate. So how do you think being a barrister, I'll say that, because I don't know the difference. If there's barrister, is there a difference between a barrister and an attorney? But you said barrister.
I did.
So how has that kind of learning and skill set impacted or supported your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like being a barrister, and it doesn't sound like it, but being a barrister is one of those skill sets that is quite general, because there are no two cases, even if you have a specialism, there are no two cases that are the same. And there will always be an element of learning. And I think a critical skill set in all barristers that I have ever met is the desire to continue to learn. And the desire to continue to learn and to continue to be better is something that I think is directly transferable to what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree because like you said, this is all new. You saw it in Colombia and you came back and was like, I can do this.
Yes.
But where do you start?
Exactly.
And understanding that it's a continuous learning process, I think is going to serve you well, right? Because there's so many different things, like you said, that you can do with the raw product of glass. Who knows? You might be making jewelry one day, girl. I don't know.
I could.
So I'm excited for you about the potential partnerships. So let's talk about some of the ones that you have been able to forge, because you did mention that some have been easy. People have been like, yes, we've been waiting for something like this, whereas others have maybe been silent, like you said. So can you talk to us about some of the ones that you're excited about and what that looks like?
So the tasting room was our very first partnership. That was one that was really easy, and they are excited. And like many businesses, they've expressed like annoying pain when bottles had to be discarded simply because of the logistics of the current waste schedule. So we've partnered with the tasting room, we've partnered with the botanist, and we've partnered with the National Trust.
Okay.
All of whom are very excited to have us on board. There is another potential partnership in the pipeline that we're still trying to finalize, and that would be a really big one for the Bottle Studio, but an upcoming sporting event.
Oh, exciting. So talk to me about that process. Like, what does that initial introduction look like? Like you said, the tasting room was really easy. But how did you initially engage them?
Yes. Putting my pride aside. I might send a cold DM, comment on one of their posts and say, hey, this looks like something that we could collaborate on. I might send an email if there is an email accessible. With several of those connections, it was the first email and it was a yes, but with some I had to follow up.
Right.
And it wasn't that they weren't interested, is that maybe they didn't see the comment.
Right.
Maybe they didn't see the email.
Right.
Or maybe someone else read it and the message wasn't relayed to the person who makes those decisions. And so all of those connections were initially forged by reaching out in writing and then going and sitting down and having a conversation. With the National Trust, it was really easy. We didn't even have to have the logistics conversation. They were like, yes.
They were like, come get these bottles, girl.
They were like, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And so some of those collaborations just make sense,
Yeah,
right?
of course they would. You know, the bottles are being used. They're empty. Now what?
Exactly.
You know, and so for you, it's great because you have access to your raw material, and you don't have to buy them.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that's awesome. One of the things I want to kind of delve into is you mentioned putting your pride aside.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I do think it's important for those who are considering entrepreneurship, especially founder and kind of CEO, operator, chief everything officer, what is required to kind of start that entrepreneurial journey, like making the cold calls. So can you go into that a little bit more?
It's strange because on the surface, it shouldn't feel like something that is difficult to do. It shouldn't feel hard to put yourself and your business out there. But for whatever reason, it does feel difficult. And it feels like if you maybe don't, or at least it felt like for me, and I don't know if everyone will feel like this, but for me, it felt like maybe if I didn't get the response that I wanted, that it was somehow a reflection on me. That's how I felt.
Okay.
And so it was sometimes I held myself back from stepping into spaces or reaching out because of the fear of what that might feel like. But actually that was based on nothing other than what was in my head.
Right.
And so I think a lot of it is, don't be your biggest hater.
Right.
You put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
Right?
But, you know, it's easier said than done, right? Because fear can be debilitating.
Yes.
It can be that thing that just makes you just stay stuck. And so how do you kind of self-talk your way out of that and like put one foot in front of the other? Like, what is the thing that makes you say, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do it.
It was actually Kelsey, my
Oh. Go, shout out to Kelsey.
Kelsey was like, I'm going to see you next week. By the end of this week, I want you to have done
Yes.
and then we're going to talk about it. And I did all of those things, and nothing horrible happened. In fact, lots of good things happened.
Yeah.
And so I think it's having that accountability, an accountability partner, and I think that's the other benefit of the BDC, right?
Right.
You have someone or lots of people to hold you accountable for yourself.
Yeah. I love that because I think that is a key kind of ingredient or component, if you will, to the journey that sometimes people don't realize they need.
Yes.
And so when they're stuck, they can't figure out like, why am I not doing the things? Like, it's just me. If I don't do it, then it's not going to get done. And hearing you say that accountability partner, knowing that you have to touch back in with someone and have something to report, might be the thing that makes you go, oh Lord, I'm scared. I don't want to do it. But if I don't do it, when I go meet with this person, I'm going to have to tell them that I didn't do it.
Exactly.
And I don't want to do that either.
Exactly.
What I think, though, is, and you can tell me if this is true. So once you've done the thing that's hard and you get the yes, is the next time easier?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So then I started thinking to the collection person, like, how can I make this easier for people? How can I even get the Bottle Studio name out there? How can people be at events and see that these bottles are going to me? And how can they be interested? And so I was like, okay, I need bins. Maybe I can brand them, maybe that sort of thing. But I've looked at the cost of bins at like $200 a bin. How's that going to work?
Right.
And so I was like, let me reach out to KBB. Maybe they can help. And actually they're so excited about the thought of partnering, and they can help. And even the scaling of doing larger events, currently I collect the bottles, I throw them in the back of my car, I take them to my at-home studio.
I'm sure your husband is like, so when you said we can do this.
Exactly. So I was like, if I do these big events, how will I do that? And so they're able to assist with even transportation and collection and all of those things. And so that has all come because I was not afraid to ask and to hear no.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I tell people all the time, I said, they can only say one of two things.
Exactly.
No or yes.
Exactly.
And you already have a no because you haven't asked, right? So I think it's really, really important for people to hear it, especially from someone who's going through it, right? It's easy for me to be like, just go ask because, I'm not doing the asking.
Exactly.
But all of those emotions, your personality even, you know what I mean? If you're not an extrovert, if you prefer to be by yourself, you just want to create. Leave me alone. Let me create in my room.
Exactly.
But as the owner, founder, the CEO of this company, you have to kind of get outside of your comfort zone initially because you have to go and make the contacts, right? If not, they're not going to know who the Bottle Studio is.
And then I think something really exciting happens because you start reaching out to people, but then people start to reach out to you. And that's when like you get the real
You're like, I'm on to something. They actually like it.
Exactly. And so we have an exciting collaboration coming up with 9 Parishes, Rum Swizzle. They have that beautiful bottle with Bermuda on the front of it. And they'd like to see if we can reclaim some of those and use that in their promo. I've also heard from Green Rock and they're having their Green Expo.
That's right.
And so it's exciting to see the directions that we might be able to take naturally, just because I've put myself out there and I wasn't afraid.
And I think that hearing you talk about this, and some people might be like, well, duh, that was a no brainer. Why wasn't this done all the time? It just makes me realize that opportunity is like, it's abound. It's like everywhere.
Yeah.
And it just takes you, the individual, to seize it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to turn it into something tangible that people are keen to support.
Yeah, it also takes me back to a point. I think that it's important for us to step outside of our norm, and whether that means meeting people that are different to you in Bermuda, or traveling and seeing the world and just being exposed to things, because there are very few new ideas under the sun, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There are very few new ideas under the sun, and sometimes you are exposed to something and you're like, yes, Bermuda needs this.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, we import the majority of everything that we have. So if there's something that can be done to help reuse the things that we would consider waste, and decrease the amount of goods we have to import in that space, why wouldn't we do that?
Exactly.
And from the type of response you've gotten, I feel, and I see it all the time, that other businesses love to support homegrown ideas and business, especially when you have kind of a social and sustainability bend.
Yeah.
Because the environment is, we have to focus on that, so that your business allows people to do that. They want to support. You know what I mean? It's like an additional way for them to market themselves as well.
Exactly.
Right? Because they can
Exactly.
highlight, look, not only are we producing these things, but we're also being responsible about what happens to the bottles and things that we have after we use them. And I think that's great. And you get to win. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
We love it. So in terms of your future outlook for the Bottle Studio, I love the name, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We did talk a little bit about the different types of products that you can make, but is there anything else that you would like to share or that you envision for the Bottle Studio?
My aim, I would love to make this bigger than me. I'd love to have a studio. I'd love to hire people. I'd love to be able to sell these glasses and items back to the hotels, and back to the restaurants, and try to close this really dangerous cycle that we have in Bermuda of buy, discard, repeat, buy, discard, repeat. Glass especially takes millions of years to biodegrade, and it is one of the few materials that can be reused, remelted without losing its structure, its integrity, and all of those things. Bermuda has really low recycling rates. Less than 20% of households recycle. And so most of the bottles that we buy and purchased are used once, and then they end up in landfill.
Yeah.
And they'll be there for millions of years.
Yeah.
And so I would love to affect a positive change. I'd love to start something where other people can look around at other materials that end up in Bermuda and say, how can we do something with that? And so I'm even thinking down to our packaging. How can I package this in a way that I don't have to import a box or a bag or whatever, and still be trying to solve a problem but contributing in another way? And so I'd love to start a movement. I'd love the Bottle Studio to be bigger than me. I'd love to change the culture of new and replace, and I'd love it to people to be able to rethink what they already have. I think we're starting to see that. I think it seems like a trend where the direction of consumers was new and improved. And I think with many things, people are starting to realize that actually the original was probably better than the new and improved. It comes with less health risks. It's durable. It washes better. It looks better. It feels better. And all of those things. And so I'm hoping that it can trickle down into other aspects of our life and trigger other social and environmental entrepreneurs to
I think it can.
take up space.
I'm already thinking, like, how many bottles do I use in a week, and where do I put those? Like, why can't, you know how they come collect the garbage, you know, every week, once a week? There could be a bin, the bottle studio bin, and you just deposit, and now I know that that's going to be used and reused.
So on that point, I know that currently I am collecting from restaurants and other local businesses after events and even just their normal service. But individuals like yourself who maybe have a Two Rock Wine subscription.
Listen.
And they don't know what to do with their bottles, you can call me. You can send me an email at hello BDA Bottle Studio, and I can collect your bottles.
I'm telling
give them
you,
a second life.
Yes.
Post weddings, I know, you know, or other special events. If you want a keepsake that you'll actually use, you know, I know people get the Mr. and Mrs. Champagne flutes, but do you use them? I don't know. But
if you don't, you should. There's no time like the present.
But you can keep those bottles from your special event, and I can turn them into something that you can actually use.
I love that. I love that.
And so individuals as well, I would love to help.
I see future bottle studio collection bins in every household. That's what I see.
Speak it. Yes, I love
because
that.
I'm like, right now, you know what I mean? I will be depositing. And people do. You know, you see the little blue bags on the side of the road. But I'm like, where do they really go?
I think people don't like having to wait 2 weeks.
Yes.
They have to collect everything for an entire 2 weeks. And so I think that is part of the reason why people don't recycle as often. I think Bermudians they don't like having things like junk.
Yes.
Even before hurricanes, the line for the dump is going all the way down to North Shore. And I think the current schedule it doesn't work. It doesn't work for people. It doesn't work for businesses. And that's not a criticism. It's just to say that there's a gap.
There's an opportunity.
There's an opportunity.
Yes. I love it. Yes, sign me up. When you get those bins, I'll take one. So let's remind people how they can reach out to you if they want, like me, to be a part of this movement.
Yes.
How can they get in touch?
You can find me on Instagram at The Bottle Studio. My email is linked on the connect button, or if you would like to send me an email, it's hello@bdabottlestudio.com.
Okay. And lastly, any words of encouragement for someone who might be stuck in the fear area?
Yes. Have an accountability partner. Find someone or several people that you tell your ideas to, and tell them to hold you accountable. Have them remind you. Have them ask you, have you done that thing? Remember you told me that you were going to do X, Y, and Z? How did that go? And for me, I don't know if everyone operates like this, but the embarrassment of having to say, I didn't do it is worse than actually doing it. And sometimes the thought of doing things is worse than reality. So have some accountability partners. Have people in your corner. Maybe not people that are going to let you off the hook either. Not your boyfriend, not your husband, not your mom. You know, your coworker. Someone that you go to the gym with, right? And tell as many people as possible. And from that comes accountability, and it also comes opportunity.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure speaking with you, Vanessa. I feel like we've minded our business today.
We sure
and just remember, if you don't mind your business, who will?
Who will? Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.